Alright guys, we're going to go over how to complete the square and kind of why we're allowed to do this. When we have a trinomial that won't factor, we can kind of cheat the system and make it factorable by completing the square. So our sample problem that we went over in class, I'm giving you x squared minus 10x. And I want us to find a number to go into the C spot so I can make this a factorable trinomial. We have a Punnett square here. Remember we talked about how Punnett squares work, where the outside, what is in these two positions are going to multiply together to create a combination in here. So I've got x squared, and the only way to get x squared is to have x times x. X times x is x squared. Now this middle 10x, negative 10x, I want to divide it evenly between these two boxes. So in order to do that, half of negative 10 is negative 5x and negative 5x. So they'll still be equal to the 10. And I got to think, x times some number right here is going to give me negative 5x. If I had x times negative 5, that will give me negative 5x. I got to come around and figure out how do I get negative 5x here multiplying on the outside. I need to multiply by some number here. X times what number right here gives me negative 5x. That is also negative 5. So I have 3 of the squares done. To complete the square, to get this final section, where the column and the row meet, it's negative 5 times negative 5, so I get positive 25. That is my completed square, and that is the number I'm going to put right over here. If I want to factor this, I need to know what multiplies to positive 25, but adds to negative 10. That's negative 5 and negative 5. X minus 5 times x minus 5. And we can shorten this up to be a perfect square binomial and write it as x minus 5 squared. So we're going to use the idea of this square and complete some squares down here without using this whole structure. Okay, so we'll go back and we'll take a look at it. Originally, I started off with just the x squared and the x term, and I was going to make a third number that works here so I can end up with this perfect square binomial. When I look at number 1, it has a c term. I want to move this c term so I can create the number that I want to go there. So to move that, I'm just going to add 9, and I'm going to move it over to the other side. So I'm going to have x squared minus 4x plus some number we're going to create, we haven't done so yet, equals 9. Now one thing to consider is if I'm going to add some number in on the left, I need to add that same number over on the right, so I'm going to make a spot for it over here to remind myself I've got to add it on to the other side. So in the square, the Punnett square up top, to place these guys in here, I took the middle term and I split it evenly between these two boxes. So in essence, I divided it by 2, split it in half. I'm going to do the same thing with the negative 4. I'm going to split it in half by dividing by a positive 2, and I get negative 2. Negative 4 divided by a positive 2 is negative 2. Okay, so that's how we were kind of getting these 5s, and when we completed the square, we did negative 5 times negative 5 and got positive 25. So really, we were squaring negative 5 because we were multiplying it by itself. So we're going to do the same thing here. We have the negative 2, we're going to square it, which gives us 4. That's going to be our new number that we're going to substitute in here. If I add 4 to the left, I need to add 4 to the right. Now I'm going to look to factor this, what multiplies to positive 4 but adds to negative 4. That will be negative 2. That's where this guy comes in. In factored form, that's going to be written x minus 2 times x minus 2 equals 9 plus 4 is 13. I'm going to shorten this down. X minus 2 squared equals 13. Now I have something being squared equaling a number. If I want to solve that, now we're solving by square roots, which is what we talked about yesterday. So I'm going to take the square root at both sides. I'm going to cancel the 2. That's what the square root cancels the squared. Get x minus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 13. Now this 2 needs to move over to get x by itself. 2 will never combine with the square root of 13. They are not like terms. So when I add my 2, he's going to come and slide in front of the plus and minus because the plus and minus was there first. I'm going to get x equals 2 plus or minus the square root of 13. Those are my 2 answers. Remember, this is math shorthand for 2 plus the square root of 13, which is a number, and 2 minus the square root of 13, which is a different number. So those are the 2 spots where the graph's going to cross the x-axis. So hopefully this will help you. If you have any questions, see you later.